Hello viewers, welcome to Ekam Academy. As part of Concept of the Day series, today we are going to discuss about veto powers. So for some reasons, I couldn't do Concept of the Day series daily videos. I'm sorry for it. So from tomorrow, we'll be having continuous videos related to Concept of the Day. So today we'll be discussing about an interesting and important topic called veto powers of the President of India. So first, let us understand more in detail. But before that, we also have an important announcement regarding a UPSC Group 2 test series, which is about to start, and it also has started from 11th of November. You can also enroll now. This test series includes 18 sectional tests with 3 grand tests along with detailed explanation copy. Not only this, they are also providing 6 months AP related current affairs along with this particular test series at free of cost. An entire package is available at the cost of 999 only. So what are you waiting for? Contact this number for any further information related to test series. So today we are going to discuss about veto power. So veto means what? To withhold, right? So that means when something is going to happen, when we wanted to stop that particular thing, we can exercise veto. So this term veto is very much important in Indian parliamentary system. It is generally exercised by president and governors respectively. But at the same time, in international domain, if you see, this is also being used in UNSC, United Nations Security Council. We have P5 countries where 5 permanent members to UNSC can use their veto powers in taking any decision regarding any particular issue, right? So these are the 2 major terms related to veto in different contexts which we come across in the preparation of UPSC. So first we need to understand veto. Right, so I just told you what is the meaning: to stop or to withhold, right? So this is being exercised by whom? So what we have seen and who is going to use it. So now we'll be understanding it is the President of India and Governor. So then what is the constitutional article related to it? Article 111 is empowering the President of India that he can use veto power. Then why is the need for the President to use this veto power, right? So because in parliamentary system, you know, Indian Constitution has ensured that every organ is using its powers within the particular domain granted by the Constitution. Otherwise, what happens? Any one organ may become totally arbitrary and it can exercise or it can control anything, right? To control these things, to ensure checks and balances, there are certain things ensured in the Constitution. One of such instrument is veto. This can be exercised by the executive, that is the President of India and Governor, in case if they feel legislature is not doing its job properly. That means if they are passing any hasty legislations or if they're passing any law that is unconstitutional, or sometimes if they think that this particular law requires more deliberation and discussion at that point of time also, they can use this power. Okay, so veto power can be used by whom? It is by executive to control if they feel the need arises in the legislature. That is what the main objective of veto power, right? So after understanding why it has been used, then later we also have to understand what are the types of veto, right? So first one we have is absolute veto. So absolute veto is the first category. Second is the qualified veto. And then we have third one is suspensive veto. Suspensive veto. And finally we have fourth one, pocket veto. So 4 types of vetoes we have in general. But for Indian President, we have first one, third one and fourth one. We don't have second veto for Indian President, which is only there for US President, right? So now I'll explain what are the different types of vetoes and when they will be exercised. So first let us understand what is absolute veto. Absolute veto means, right? So generally, you know, when the legislature passes a bill, at least that means based on the requirement, if 2 houses has to give assent, then it will be submitted before the President of India or the Governor for the assent, right? So at that point of time, he can give the assent, he can withhold the assent, or he can return for the reconsideration, or he can simply sit silent also in some particular bills. So that means if he uses his power to withhold a bill, then we call it as absolute veto, right? So that means if he's withholding the bill, it will not generally get passed, then it will not, that means a bill will not become an act, right? So in that way also he can ensure the check and balances against the legislature. This is absolute veto, right? So when they generally use this absolute veto, that means the President of India, means in 2 situations he can use. One is when any private member bill, okay, so you generally know private member bills are not that easy to get passed in the legislature, but still in case if any private member bill get passed, then any government which is in power, if they're not liking the bill, they can advise the president to use this veto in the case of private member bill. Or in second situation, if one government has brought a particular bill, but when it came to the presidential assent and all, if the government has collapsed and new government has formed, then the present government can advise that please exercise veto on the past government's bill to the President of India. That means in the government change situations also, government can use this absolute veto, right? So, and this absolute veto is available in case of ordinary bill generally, and it is also available in case of money bill. So it is not available in the case of constitutional amendment bill. This is what you have to understand, because in constitutional amendment bill, there is no choice for the President of India. It is not part of original constitution. Do understand? Only 24th constitutional amendment in 1971, it has mandated that President of India, when was given the constitutional bill, he has to give the assent. There is no other choice. That is why in the cases of ordinary bill and money bill, President can exercise his absolute veto. Then next is the case of suspensive veto, right? Suspensive veto means, as I just told you, when a bill is presented before the President of India, he may give the assent, he may withhold, or he may return for reconsideration, right? So in case, so first instance, he can return, but after returning again, the President is obliged to sign the bill. That generally happens. But if after returning from the reconsideration, if the legislature passes the bill with the same majority again and send it back to the President of India, then we call it as suspensive veto. Here the veto power of the President is getting suspended, right? So this is what suspensive veto. What is qualified veto? If in case instead of having same majority, if the bill which is asked for reconsideration get passed with a higher majority than the earlier thing, that means, for example, if first instance they have used half of the majority to pass the bill, in the second instance it should get passed with more than that. That means at least 3/4 members should approve the bill, then only it will again go to the President of India or President in general. That is why qualified veto is not there in case of Indian President. It is only there in US. That means in India, if the President is returning any bill for reconsideration, they can use the same majority and pass the bill again. Or in the case of USA, generally they have to pass it with a higher majority than the first instance. That is what the difference, right? So in which situations he can use this? Only in the case of ordinary bill. In money bill, he cannot return the money bill, right? So that is why there won't be any suspensive veto in the case of money bills. In the state bills also he can use it. That is a different story, right? Then what is pocket veto? Third one is pocket veto. So pocket veto means, so he doesn't express anything, he just keeps simply in his pocket. That is how we call it as pocket veto. That means if he simply sits silent on a bill without saying anything, then we call it as a pocket veto, right? So generally what happens is, in India there is no time limit for President's assent, right? In case if he's simply sitting idle also, we cannot question. That is why, but in USA generally the time limit is mentioned like 2 weeks and everything. That is why the pocket of Indian President is considered to be larger than the pocket of the US President. So this is what you have to understand, right? This can be exercised in the case of ordinary bill only, right? But in case of money bill, you generally cannot exercise pocket veto because it was introduced with the prior recommendation of the President of India. So generally they'll give the assent. So in the case of ordinary bill, they can use the pocket veto. In case of constitutional amendment bill, no pocket veto. So this is the first thing you need to understand. Right? So as I told you, veto powers are very much important to ensure checks and balances against the legislature by the executive, right? Then sometimes even in the case of state legislature also, the President of India can use his veto powers, right? So what happens in the case of state legislature bills is, so state legislature, when it passes a bill to the governor of India, governor of the particular state, he can give the assent, he can withhold the bill, or he can return for reconsideration, or he can also reserve the bill for presidential consent. This is under Article 201, right? So when it is reserved for the presidential consent, right? So then President can give the bill assent or withhold the bill, or he can return the bill for reconsideration, okay? Or he can simply sit silent also. Then if it is returned for reconsideration, and if the state legislature passes with the same majority also, or if they again send it back to the President, okay? So then here there is no time limit mentioned for the President of India. So he can even simply say silent. He cannot even decide within the stipulated time limit because there is no time limit mentioned by the constitution. In that way, he is overriding the suspensive veto in the case of state legislatures, but his veto power is getting suspended in the case of parliament and in the related bills. So this is what you have to understand. So today, as part of the concept of the day series, we have discussed about an important concept called veto, right? So, and what are the different types of vetoes? What is the difference between veto powers of the President of India and USA? We have understood what is there for the US President, what is not there for the Indian President. We have seen, along with the comparative terms in which particular bills, which type of veto is available, along with the state legislature and the bills passed by the state legislature. When these things are referred for the President of India, what type of things he can exercise in terms of veto we have discussed. So this is all with respect to today's video. If you like the video and found informative, let me know in the comment section. Thanks for joining. All the very best.